Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Thank you, John. Question. Should we be paying welfare and unemployment benefits to able-bodied people who are physically and mentally capable of working? Fairly simple question. Listen, thousands, and I mean thousands, maybe tens of thousands of jobs are going begging in this province. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Take a drive down Carp Road. Not exactly all that scenic, a lot of industries and so forth. I swear to goodness that every single business that's there, Horizon Kitchens, the cement factory, everywhere, trucking firms, everybody's got a sign out, hiring, apply within. You know, and some of these jobs are paying really good money, $20, $30, $35 an hour, plus benefits. Can't find anybody to work. Companies are closing or reducing their working hours because they can't find enough people to properly staff the business. We see this all the time. But at the same time, we are paying out literally tens of millions of dollars every month in unemployment benefits and welfare to people, most of them young, who are perfectly capable of working. Why the hell are we doing this? We're putting businesses out of business or shortchanging them on staff, making them pay taxes nonetheless, and some of their taxes are going to pay people who refuse to work for them. Huh. I mean, now you may recall, now many of you won't recall, but I recall it very well because I was once again doing open line shows in Toronto, as a matter of fact, when Bob Rae and the NDP took over. One of the first things that Bob Rae and the NDP did was they increased the welfare payments to about 20% above any other welfare payments in the entire country. So, you know what happened. I mean, everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people who didn't want to work, they said, holy smokes, it's Nirvana in Ontario. Let's go to Ontario. We'll get 20% more for our welfare. So as a consequence, almost overnight, guess what? Welfare payments increased about 20%. Almost overnight, guess what? Welfare rolls increased about 20%. It was quite astonishing. But once again, jobs were going begging and so forth. It was a disaster. We all know what happened. I mean, the NDP essentially bankrupted the province. Remember Ray Days, etc.? Mm-hmm. So one of the first things, Mike Harris comes in, God bless him, the Common Sense Revolution. Remember that? You know, one of the first things he did? He reduced welfare payments in Ontario by 20%. Guess what happened? Well, I mean, the facts, don't believe me. Just check the facts yourself, okay? The information is there. Just check a newspaper for those dates. You will see that almost overnight, Mike Harris reduces welfare payments by about 20%, and welfare rolls in the province drop by about 20%. Almost overnight. In other words, when they weren't paying all of this money, about 20% of people on the welfare rolls, and there were millions, decided, well, you know what? It's not all that profitable on welfare anymore, so maybe we'll go out and get a job, and many of them did. I think that the time has come to do the same thing. It is absolute folly and bloody expensive, and I think damaging the economy. I know is damaging the economy. Tens of thousands of jobs going begging, and tens of thousands of people, most of them able-bodied, young, strong, mentally and physically fit, refuse to work. Now, people are saying, well, you know, they're only paying $15 an hour. Well, I mean, if you're 14, 15 years old and you're serving up coffee at Tim Hortons, then you're making $15 an hour plus some tips. But I want to tell you, even, you know, with tips, well, even without tips in a 40-hour week, that's still $600, $700 a week. And if that's not enough to get, well, you know, maybe go out and rake my lawn. I could. Last year, I offered $100 to anybody that would come. It would take about 3 hours to rake my lawn, the needles. Couldn't get a soul. My wife and my granddaughter finally did it, took pictures of it. So, people say, oh, it's not paying enough. Then, you know what? If you need some more dough, come and rake my lawn. I'll give you $100 cash. You don't have to report it. You don't have to pay. Couldn't get anybody, not a soul. You think I'm the only one to read? No, absolutely not. Not only that, but if you're making, say, I'm talking minimum wage now, Tim Hortons, $600 a week, okay? And so you're still making more money than you will on welfare. So I don't understand. If you can live on CERB or whatever it is we're paying you these days, can't keep track of it. If you're living on that, it's less than $600 a week. So if you can live on that, why can't you live on get a bump and increase and go out and serve coffee for Tim Hortons? They'll hire you tomorrow. Better yet, go out and get a job at $30 an hour, for God's sake. No, oh no. We'll take the welfare, we'll take the unemployment instead. I say the time has come to call our bluff. As long as there are all kinds of jobs going begging, we should not be paying welfare. We should not be paying unemployment. What do you say? Any comments on that? I'd sure like to hear them.
We have a lot of comments in so far, so as soon as you're ready, say the word and we'll start reading them to you.
All right, fire away. Yes.
All right, to your original question, should we continue supporting able-bodied people? It was no, followed by no, followed by no, then an absolutely not, then a no. Make them work, freeloaders. Then we received the comment, no. Tina Marie was then laughing, saying, I have not seen one person comment yes. Kathy says, no, we should not be paying for welfare or CERB to those who are capable of working. Ken says, now ask the question, are you in favor of universal basic income? I'll bet you get a different answer to that, says Ken.
Why? Excuse me. Why would we pay people for doing nothing when there are jobs going begging? What? Like, I mean, you know what? If you want to earn money, go out and work by the sweat of your brow or whatever it takes. Okay, there are jobs going begging. I swear to God, I repeat, drive along Carp Road, one road.
No, I know.
In a city of 1 million people. Sign after sign after sign. Some of these people will pay you a bonus, pay you $1,000 just to come and work for them. Can't get anybody. But we're still paying out CERB and unemployment and welfare.
I told you the story last week, Lowell, of trying to hire a driveway clearing service, and I contacted a gentleman who's just around the corner from me, a business that is well-reviewed, well-established, and he said, I'm sorry, I can't take any clients this winter. I cannot find people to work for me. He's had his business now, a snow clearing business.
Let me tell you another little story. Frisbee Tire is one of the most reputable firms, I think, in the city. Been 100%. Here a long, long time. Frisbee Tire was approached, not by me, but by someone else, to sponsor my program. He's a great fan, Don Frisbee. He said, you know what? I would love to. I'd love to. But he said, here's the problem. He said, I can't hire enough staff to handle a business we have now. That, honest to God, that's one of the reasons why Frisbee's is not sponsoring this program. He can't find people to handle a business he has now. So why would he, that's just one small example of the kind of thing that's going on here. And I repeat, a good chunk of our tax dollar is going for welfare, unemployment for people who are perfectly capable of working, and there are perfectly good jobs begging for them to go and work. So unequivocally, most people are saying today they agree with me, right?
They do.
Let me give you throw it another time. By the way, we'll be glad to take more comments on that, please. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to discuss, folks? I just want to make that very plain. I keep saying this all of the time. If there's another topic, and sometimes people do suggest topics, sir, I appreciate that very much. Can't always be on top of things that are really, really bothering you. Just give us a call. John, you can go through how you do that again.
Call or text 613-413-2030. 613-413-2217. The number is on your screen as often as I can get it on your screen. Again, 613-413-2217. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, if you're on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, wherever you would ordinarily post your comments, post them there, and I will get them on the screen so at the very least other people who are watching the show can follow along. Tom says, our dog kennel cannot get people to walk dogs, even at $18 an hour. And chimes in moments ago to say, I also love the situation with Ottawa City Housing. There are, hang on, we got a call coming in here. Let's put that on hold. There are many townhomes in my neighborhood in those units that have quite nice vehicles like SUVs and fancy trucks who do not seem hard up. I spoke to a social worker one time and she said, unless someone complains, they'll not check anything out. That is wrong.
What I love are you drive past some of these low-cost housing units and you see SUVs, snowmobiles, and really nice large boats parked in the driveway. We're helping to, you know what? We're not paying these people's rent. What we're doing is we're buying them SUVs, snowmobiles, expensive cars, and boats. I'm not suggesting everybody on welfare is living high off the hog. They're not. But sadly, many of them are, no question about it. You say that we have a call coming in?
Jason's on the line right now. Again, 613-413-2217. Jason, you're on BTR with Lowell Green. Go ahead.
What brilliant comments do you have for us this morning?
Lowell, just want to say, with the CERB ended, we still can't find anybody with no experience for 8 hours a day in construction. We're mind-boggled here that we can't find anybody to even lift up a wheelbarrow and cart it around. It's unbelievable.
What sort of salary would you be paying? Minimum wage?
Minimum we pay is $20 an hour for no experience.
For common labor?
Common labor, 8 hours a week, Monday to Friday, 7 to 3:30.
And you can't get anybody to do it?
No. I think they play the system where they call us and they call me and they say, listen, I'll show up tomorrow morning. And then they don't show up. I don't know. That has something to do with unemployment, saying that, yes, we did apply it, but they just don't show up.
Well, I think that actually, to be honest with you, Jason, I think that does happen. You're supposed to, I mean, it's the unemployment is a farce. But because, I think what people say is, oh, yeah, I've got a job interview tomorrow. So that gets the employment office off their back for a week or so, and they don't show.
Exactly. I called this guy, and exactly.
I'll never forget, this is years ago, my dad was farming down in Ormstown in the eastern townships of Quebec. And he couldn't get, at this point, he's in his 70s. He can't get anybody to help on the farm, none whatsoever. And he's paying $20 an hour for people to come out and help him hay. So he went into the employment office in Ormstown one day and says, listen, I see young people lined up here collecting unemployment every single day. I'm driving by here and I see 4 or 5 people, young guys, lined up collecting unemployment. I want to hire a couple of those guys. So anyway, one day, a couple of days later, 3 of these guys show up to work. They go out in the fields for the morning. It's a beautiful day. They do a little bit of haying. So at lunch, they say, we're going to go in a town for a beer. That was the end of it. Never saw them again.
No.
And then about 2 weeks later, apparently, one of them called and he wanted to get paid for the 2 hours or 3 hours that he'd worked. But it's just, but it's not news to you, right, Jason?
No, absolutely not. It's a struggle, and I think that they can't even to get off unemployment. And I was told that there's guys out there or people out there that are on unemployment, and the government cannot force them to go back to work, from what I'm told.
Yeah, it's true. It's civil rights, but they'll force you to pay pay your taxes.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Jason. Thank you for calling, sir. That's the kind of call that I like. It just exacerbates the situation. It explains exactly what's happening from the employer's point of view. They need people to work. He's offering $20 an hour and can't get anybody. Meantime, people by the thousands are collecting CERB, collecting unemployment, and collecting welfare, which you and I have to pay for. John, more texts coming in.
Yep, on Facebook, Craig says, I have clients that are building their new house just outside Pakenham. They cannot find roofers. Julie says, this is because some people are really lazy and like free money. I work my butt off to make a good living. Chrissy says, this makes me mad. Where I have always been able to work and have never been on EI or welfare ever. People who are capable of working should be out there. Like, you can't be making that much on EI or welfare and be able to survive unless you have a cash job on the side. Let me see. Joshua says, no, because those of us like myself who are not able-bodied don't get what we need. My parents are pushing 60. They take care of me. That should be worth something, but yet I still get more in my disability pension when I leave that will pay for my care, which won't be as good as I'm getting now.
You know what, John? One of the problems here is that we have a system that supports this. The
Yep.
system that we have encourages slothfulness. It encourages this kind of thing. What it says in many ways is, listen, you don't have to work. You can pretend to be looking for work, but if you don't find exactly what you want, that pays exactly what you want or what you think you deserve, you don't have to take the job. In the meantime, we will give you money. It's the system that encourages that kind of thing. What happened is, this is true. When Mike Harris came into office, was one of the first things he did was lower welfare payments by 20%. Immediately, almost overnight, the welfare rolls dropped by about 20%. It was quite astonishing. And the other thing that Mike Harris did, you may remember, is that he imposed on high schools, and I think this is still part of the deal, where kids actually had to go out and do some volunteer work, so many hours of volunteer work before they graduated. Some of you can tell me whether that condition still exists or not. Um, Let me see. We have this JS from California calling. We got a call coming in from California. Go ahead.
Hi, well, I was just going on the other side of the story. How much does it cost for people managing welfare, subsidized housing, disability, social service program? I mean, these people make over $100K a year, and actually it's been calculated that it costs more to manage than the actual funds that they provide to people who actually need it.
I'm not sure what your point is here.
Well, the whole management of providing social services has a huge cost. These people who work these positions make large amounts of salary.
You know what?
I mean,
That actually, that's not true. Many of the people involved in social services are women, and their salaries, generally speaking, are not that high. I don't know where you got that information. And by the way,
on the Sunshine List.
let me ask you this: Are you a resident of California?
A little bit of both. I have a house in Ontario and California.
So you're not starving.
Well, I mean, soon we'll be with both taxes from California and Ontario.
Here's what disturbs me about California. I love San Francisco. I mean, San Francisco essentially, gradually, and people who live there in California are supporting this. San Francisco is turning into a homeless shelter. It is turning into a huge, disastrous dump. Thousands of people living on the streets in tents and other, defecating and urinating on the streets, widespread break-ins. This is what extreme left-wing policies will do for you. Am I right or wrong, sir?
Well, look at Toronto.
Well, look at Toronto.
I mean, you have people. If it wasn't for the weather, you have a big concentration of homeless people.
Nowhere near. Sorry, you know what? You can make all the excuses you want. The fact of the matter is that I'm talking mile after mile of tent cities in San Francisco. Am I not right?
Oh yes. Well, there's no support for the police. There's defunding for the police. The laws are, when they're incarcerated, the bails are a lot lower. They want to make sure that certain groups have different sentences.
Precisely. What I'm saying to you is this is what happens when extreme left-wing governance takes over. If you want to see a disaster in the Bay, there's that beautiful city of San Francisco, city by the bay, and it's being turned into a giant homeless camp. It's a disaster. I just thought I would throw that in.
So it's LA.
Pardon?
So is Los Angeles. Actually, there's actually a black plague
Los Angeles.
problem.
You're absolutely right. It's a disaster. And you know what? And you've got your left-wing politicians, all Democrats out there, and they refuse to deal with it. And just as welfare encourages slothfulness here, your welfare system, etc., in California encourages that, destroying entire cities. Thank you. You know what? Thanks for calling, sir. Appreciate the call. Shields, got to get a word in here for our good friends at Shields. Yes, Shields. This no question that their specialty is appliances. They have a huge warehouse absolutely filled with almost every appliance you could possibly want, which means, among other things, there's no long delay. And the prices, well, compare. Compare big box prices, even the sale prices, and compare the sale prices you will see at Shields. You can do it very easily. Shields.ca. All of the appliances are listed there, and it's the website is very thorough because it lists in many cases by capacity, by amount of wattage that it uses, etc., color, style, size, the whole business. It's all there. Very easy to read. Listen, you know what? If I can read a website, you can read the website. Believe me. John, more text coming in.
On Facebook, Kelly says, I remember working in the bank in my past career and being told to hurry up, cashing my welfare check. I have a cab waiting. Sheila says, I'm on unemployment because I had an operation and can't wait to go back to work. Cannot live off what I get on unemployment. Don't know how people do it. And my job is a minimum wage job. Let me see. Terry is on Twitch. He says it's a good thing nobody smokes anymore. You couldn't get anyone to pick tobacco. One hell of a job. Let me see. Kim says, my friend was on EI for a year, and the EI office never bothered her once for anything. Checks just kept on coming, she says. Let me see. Also, the reason I don't give to panhandlers, says Hein, I delivered food for extra cash and delivered to the very same panhandler I gave money to. Had a nicer place than mine, and he didn't even tip. Craig said earlier that he used to do gift baskets and stuff and drop them off at people's houses. They'd open the door and they had nicer TVs than he did.
Let me just say, the people on the street, and there are any number of surveys and studies which prove this. About half the homeless, so-called homeless, have serious mental problems.
Yep.
And the problem is that we have laws in this province, and I'm partially responsible for some of those laws, that allow those people in authority, police, social workers, anybody else in any position of authority, can take people off the streets for 72 hours, put them in a hospital, make them take their meds and so forth. Sadly, it hardly ever happens. Most of those people on the streets right now should be and could be in hospital being treated. And in many cases, not them all, but in many cases, if they take their meds, they can live a normal or damn near normal life. But the lefties in our society, they say, oh, we can't force people to take meds, even though the law says that you can. There's a situation where you wonder why I'm a conservative. You wonder why I'm not a lefty. Well, there's one of the reasons right there. Go ahead, John.
Hein says it's the illegitimate homeless that ruin it for the legitimate ones. Kelly says she'll give food to a panhandler, but never money. And Tina says addiction issues play a big part in the panhandlers. Over to our phone here, 613-413-2217. Toronto is popular for the homeless because the vents for the subway on the sidewalks are large and provide a warm spot.
Let me tell you something. The homeless situation in Toronto is bad. It's bad in Ottawa. It's sad. It's unfortunate.
It is.
But it is nowhere near what it is on the west coast of the United States. I tell you, in San Francisco, there is mile after mile after mile of tents, homeless shelters, cardboard shelters. There are parts of San Francisco and of Los Angeles where you swear to God that you are in some fourth world garbage dump. That's what it looks like. And the lefties who run those provinces refuse to do anything about it and, in fact, encourage it. Go ahead, John.
You said provinces. I know you meant states. Vancouver, though, is really bad for that, too.
Sorry, yeah.
You know, we're not immune to it. Vancouver's an awful
yeah.
Situation.
Well, have a look. Have a look at the east end of Vancouver. Right.
Oh.
This is what all of the free needles will get you. More free needles. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was working with a young lady who's from Vancouver who was living in Ottawa for some time, and we would talk about the homeless situation here, and she'd kind of laugh a little bit. And she's like, you don't have a homeless problem here. Nothing compared to Vancouver. All right. Kim says, king for a day is what we call the phenomenon of people jumping out of cabs with a case of beer. Welfare checks spent in a day. Satan's Playmate. Yes, Satan's Playmate follows you, Lowell, on Twitch, saying, single parent. I worked hard for 40 years and been volunteering for 50. Watched many people on assistance get help while I've always had to pay. Example, someone on welfare can get a service dog. I had to pay $70,000. Wow. Let me see.
$70,000 for a service dog?
For a service dog? Well, the training, etc. I can believe that.
Wow. Okay. That's
it was almost
$1,000
just to adopt the dog from a rescue.
Really? Okay.
Yep. There you go. Those are the comments.
All right. I've got a couple of other topics. I have certainly time for one. Yesterday, we touched briefly on the subject of boycotting the Beijing Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a new development since then. The United States has imposed a diplomatic boycott. The athletes will still be allowed to go and will, but there'll be no government representation, no officials whatsoever. Now, Aaron O'Toole and others have urged Trudeau to follow suit, but we all know the love that Justin Trudeau has for anything Chinese. And so far, he's dragging his feet. No indication from the Liberals that they will follow suit. By the way, there are a number of Western countries, Scandinavian countries, a number of European countries that have done the same thing, diplomatic boycotts. As the Ottawa Sun says this morning, it's not perfect. It's not a total boycott, but it is a good compromise that means that the athletes who play no role in this will not be punished. And it does send a message, and a pretty powerful message. The Chinese are very concerned about their image in the world. And when country after country says, we're not sending our diplomats, we're not sending our officials, we're not sending government representation, this is a slap in the face to the Chinese. It sends them a message. And evidence of that is the fact that already the Chinese are complaining to the United States. Very clearly, they're upset. So here we are. And if we don't do it, we will be one of the few Western nations that refuse to send a message to the Chinese. After everything that I'm talking about the Chinese government, okay? Not the Chinese people. Chinese people are very often the victims here too. But the Chinese government, after everything the Chinese government has done to us, I mean, how many years did they hold the Michaels, etc.? Canceled a lot of the trading agreements, etc. And we still are afraid to take even a minimum action to embarrass them. What the hell is wrong with Trudeau? Don't answer that, folks. It would probably throw me off the air. Oh my goodness. It's any comments on that? I know we discussed this yesterday, but now since then, as I say, actually during the show yesterday, the United States announced this diplomatic. So here, very often we're critical of the United States, but here they have led in what we would call a peaceful protest. Athletes are not being affected. They're not going to be punished. But Canada still reluctant to do anything. Why? Why are we afraid to take any action against these damn Chinese government? Go ahead, please, John.
First comment in is by email. Jamie says, hi, Lowell. I support you in your advocating for a diplomatic boycott. I'm not educated on how the athletes feel, if they feel comfortable even going to China and or if they want to boycott too. But at the very least, a diplomatic boycott should be done, says
Well,
Jamie.
let me just say this. If the athletes don't want to go, they won't. But I mean, most of these athletes, if you're an Olympic athlete, you have trained for years. This is your goal. I mean, you may have only 8 or 9 or 10 seconds in the sun after 4 years of work and training. And if they don't want to go, they won't. But as far as I know, they all want to go. Not because it's Beijing or China. It's because this is the world's best. That's what they do. They want to compete on a world stage against the world's best. And this is the place to do it. John, we're almost out of time here.
Yep. Quickly, Joshua says, what's wrong with Trudeau? Lowell, you need at least an hour to cover that one. Nina
I know. Actually, you know what? Actually, sorry, John. Sorry.
No,
actually, that's not a bad topic sometime, and it's kind of quiet to say, okay, folks, you got a half an hour. What's wrong with Trudeau?
Write the number down. Get ready for it. Jean-Francois asks, why is Black Lives Matter so popular when China has 3.7 million people in modern slavery? Nina says, apparently China said our diplomats were not invited, so they don't care. what Canada does. I have not heard that, Nina, but okay. Let me see. Long Point Driver says, I looked at it. It was 10 years old, 10 years. I don't know what you're... Oh, apparently, we're having private conversations on our chat now. At the very least, a diplomatic boycott, says Hein, but Trudeau doesn't have the balls. There you go.
Or something. I suppose in a half hour we might get into that discussion. Thank you all. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.